Hello, everybody. Well, hello, everybody. Oh, wait, what? Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Welcome to this World School Chess Tournament. My name is Pepe Cuenca, and we are here in the second day with Pool A from Dubai in order to see this fantastic tournament. Remember, guys, that this evening the World Chess Championship will start here in Dubai with Magnus Carlsen facing Jan Nepomniachtchi. So hi out there in the chat. I see some people already on Twitch, on YouTube, on Chess24 webpage. And let's follow the games, right? Let's see what's going on. And we have this super strong team from India, right, where Pragnananda and Gukesh, for example, are playing. The Belamal Nexus High School team with Gukesh, Prag, Leon Mendonca, Pranav, Rindija. And today, they're facing the Align Culture and Chess Club, a team which is, captained by Dmitry Komarov. And let's see what's going on in the game. So c4, knight f6, d4, g6 by Gukesh, g3, bishop to g7, bishop g2, short castle, knight c3, d6, e4, and now e5 from Gukesh. Now this is the Fianchetto line versus the King's Indian. Now usually White has two possibilities to reply against this move. Like you can close the center with d5, and then you can also play knight g to e2. That would be very natural. Even knight f3, right? If White goes d5 here, closing the position, usually Black is gonna strike in the future with some f5, typical reaction in the King's Indian. And you can also try to play a5, knight a6, and knight c5. That's another typical maneuver here in the King's Indian. Just installing a beautiful knight on c5, and this is what Gukesh does against d5. He goes for a5 in order to bring this knight to c5, as I was telling you guys. So, well, now how to continue with the white pieces? Well, I would like to play knight g to e2, followed by short castle, and then think how to place the pieces. So let's say knight g to e2, knight a6, short castle, and then knight c5 is also a possibility, or even moves like knight h5 in order to go all in with f5, starting an attack already. And this is a clear positional mistake, a4, because usually one of the main ideas for white in this kind of position is to push the queen side in the future, right? With moves like b3, a3, rook b1, b4. But now with a4, that means that you're not gonna be able to do anything on the queen side. And now we can see the rating difference between Al-Naimi and Gukesh. 1,350 points, which is of course a lot in chess. So that means that now the knight on c5 is gonna be extremely comfortable, right? And let's see what Prag is doing here against Abdullah Jones. So knight to f3, d5, g3, e6, bishop knight, short castle, and d takes e4, knight a3, bishop takes, pawn takes, short castle, bishop develops, right? Main diagonal, fantastic bishop on b2, knight b7, and rook c1 from Prag. The idea is very simple. He just wants to capture this pawn on c4. If Black tries to protect it by playing knight b6, I believe that now knight e5 is strong enough to get this pawn back immediately, right? Knight c4 is the next move, and that means that White will enjoy the bishop pair with with balanced material. Right, so those are good news for Abdullah. I know it's already too early in Europe, right? It's about 7 a.m., for example, in my country, in Spain, and in Latin America or North America, it's even worse time to watch chess. Now it's, I don't know, maybe in the United States it is like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., I don't know, depending on the zone. So it's pretty bad time for you guys over there. So that's why thank you a lot for being here to, well, you guys are giving me some great company. So, practice a shark, all Uncle Bob is saying. I agree, practice super strong. Let's see what happened here. So rook c1, b5 is another, you know, big mistake in this position, because now this bishop on g2 is such a great piece. Just Prag went knight d4, and this basically guarantees white some material back, because now, you know, basically the only move to stay in the game is knight to d5, right? Because if you play rook b8, then knight c6 is just winning. So, well, you play knight d5. Now you can even play moves like a4 here, a4, pawn takes, and now knight c6. Let's say queen e8 and rook takes c4, and this is just such a wonderful position for white with these two knights, right? Look at these two guys. You know, they're so strong. So knight d4, knight b6, and of course now Prag is just capturing this rook on a8, and that will give him a big advantage. Thank you, Suban. Thank you. Hi from Kuwait. What's up, free woman? How are you? Good to have you here in the stream. So let's say bishop a8, knight takes a8, and now knight takes b5 would be a very natural move. I believe that black has to create some counterplay along the main diagonal with moves like queen d5. Let's say you go back to c3, you can try to create some troubles with moves like queen h5, you know, trying to create some chaos with knight g4, bishop g7. But I mean, this is just too bad for black, right? There's no way that Prag is not gonna convert this position, right? So let's go back to Gukesh's game. So he went for knight f to d7, which makes a lot of sense. He wants to bring this knight to c5, and the other can come to b4. Look at these two knights, you know, they're doing a great job looking for some tasty squares later on on d3, for example. And naturally, black's main break is the move f5. So knight to f3, knight d to c5, bishop g5, queen e8, short castle, and f5. You know, a very natural trap in this position is the move f4. For example, if you go something like, let's say queen b1, just something stupid, you can play f4. And the thing is, this bishop is trapped with moves like h6 and g5. So that's why white took on f5. So that gives you a way out for this bishop. And here he took with the bishop. Usually I like taking with the pawn, you know, because you have more control over the center, right? But he took with the bishop. It's also a natural move, developing the last minor piece. If I were white, I would play knight d2 in order to control the e4 square. If I manage to get control over the e4 squares, won't be that bad for white. Okay, now it's white's turn, and Al-Naimi is just thinking. So, finally, this evening, guys, World Chess Championship, Magnus Carlsen, Nepomniachtchi, Nepo with the white pieces. And it's such a wonderful event, this kids event, like before the World Chess Championship, you know. There are so many kids from different countries, you know, different cultures, and this is what chess is about, you know. Like people from many different countries in the world, many different cultures, all talking the same language, which is chess, right? And you know, they are getting to know each other after the rounds. They are talking to each other, and this is actually extremely nice. This is the best thing about chess by far, you know. You get to know many different people, and this is so cool. Knight d2 from Al-Naimi, good move. He wants to go knight e4. Now you can see them in the video footage, you can see Gukesh and you can see Al-Naimi, knight d2. Well, let's say you played knight b4, then knight d2 e4. Suddenly, white is not that bad in this position. I think white is even okay if you allow knight e4. So, what can we do in this position? Maybe some bishop d3, rook e1, something like that, and let's say queen f7, attacking the f2 pawn. That would be very natural, right? I believe like white has to go back with the bishop to e3, otherwise it's not that simple to protect the Facundo pawn. And you don't want to play f3, you know, this is very, very ugly, right? Look at this bishop on g2. Such a bad piece here on the king side. So, let's see how Prag is doing. Prag is completely winning already. This is just a full exchange up in this position. Moves like queen a4, attacking these two weaknesses. It went for e4. You know, fighting against this bishop on b7, which is the best piece by far in black's position, right? So e4. Now Prag can bring this queen to e2, for example, to take this guy on c4. And all right, let's check some other matches. For example, the match between Saco Oliveros and Torrelavega teams from Peru and Spain. Let's see, for example, this game between Diego Flores and Tawenka. What went wrong here? Wow. Queen h7, king e8, knight d4, and now you see a big problem for black, because now e6 is under attack, but also there is this big threat. Knight b5 followed by knight d6. And actually, you cannot parry both of them at the same time, right? So rook f7 was played. Knight b5, intermediate move, very nice move. Now you take on h7, knight takes c7, intermediate move. Pepe, whom do you prefer to win the world championship and why? Well, I don't have a preference, you mean. I just want to see good chess. I really don't care. I just want to have a lot of fun. I just want the fans, you know, to have a lot of fun during this month, you know. And I think we will. Because there are two aggressive players, you know, they will go all in every game. And we'll see a lot of decided games. I'm so sure about that. And I don't care, actually, who wins. I like both of them, you know. Queen c6 with Nepo, I never got to meet in real life. With Magnus, I have met him a couple of times. He's a very nice guy. Also, his father, Henrik. Knight d6 check. Now, queen takes, only move. Otherwise, I'm just capturing this rook on f7. Takes, and now this is just a full exchange up for white, right? Bishop d4, knight f8, and rook g7. Knight takes, pawn takes. Look at this king on the back rank, you know. Black is about to resign in this position. Yeah, you can bring this rook to e7. You can play h4 as well. You can even play g4, right? Because the g6 pawn is under attack if black takes in g4. There are many ways to finish this game. So bad news for the Spanish team here. Let's go back to the leaders of this pool. Gukesh, he went for bishop d3 as we were suggesting, right? Rook e1, knight b4. Now with the idea of going knight c2. And then he went knight b5. Attacking on c7. So you go knight c2, I'll take on c7. So that's why Gukesh says, you know what? Now you're gonna suffer. Because I'm just protecting c7, but at the same time, I'm attacking the f2 pawn. So, and also, I have this move in mind, which is knight c2, fork to both rooks. So how do you parry everything at the same time? Just simply can't. I would say, yeah, he went for bishop e3, and now knight c2, and basically, this is just too good for black. You know, now you're just capturing either this rook on a1 or this rook on e1. Good news for the Indian team. No surprise till now. And okay. Knight c2. And this is almost over, so we'll come back here in a while. Let's go back to to Prague game. a6, king f2, knight c4, knight b1. Very simple move. Humble, simple, and effective. You know, knight b1. You protect d2, you protect a3, and then you attack this knight. There's no way to protect this knight. That means this knight has to move away, and after this knight moves away, then c7 is going to fall. The rook on the 7th rank also will come attacking with a tempo. This bishop on b7. This king will manage to get to the e3 square at some point, and basically Abdullah is about to resign. What's up, Andres? How are you doing? Where are you watching from, Andres? Where are you guys from? Tell me, I want to know. Yesterday we had some people from the Netherlands, from UK, from Australia as well, from India, and now we have a girl here from Kuwait, Colombia. Andres is from Colombia. Such a nice country. I've been there a couple of times. Been there in Bogota, in Cali, in Medellin. It's a great country, guys. If you have some holidays, I recommend you to go to Colombia. Canada, Sigmunder. Never been to Canada. I was invited once to a tournament, but I couldn't go. Good chess players from Canada. Eric Hansen, Aman Hambleton, right? The chess bra guys. So knight to b1, and here, well, I think this is just completely losing for black. So there's no point. We stay here in this game. Same applies for Gukesh game. So bishop takes c5, d takes c5. There's no hurry to capture any of these rooks, right? Because you are forking them, so you can simply take on c5. Now one of these rooks are gonna fall, and also f2 is actually attacked. So for example, you go knight e4, you can just take on e4 first, and now you can take on f2 with bad consequences for white's position. Let's say king h1, knight takes a1, takes, and then queen takes c3. This is just a disaster. Waiting very anxious for the World Championship. I think we are, you know, I just saw the Spanish stream for this evening. There are already 100 people waiting for the stream to start. And I checked the English one, and there are like 300 people just in the waiting room. So this is very nice, you know. We've been 3 years without the World Championship, so we are all very anxious about this. We want a lot of action. So queen f3 was played by Al-Naimi, and now, you know, the easiest way to play is just queen takes f3 followed by knight takes a1, something like that. So queen takes, and once again, there is no hurry. You don't need to take the rook. You can take the rook, of course, and that will be fine. But you can even play e4, attacking the knight on f3. You have, you know, 3 threats. Actually 4, because this bishop's also pointing to the b2 square. Once this knight moves away, let's say to h2, you can even play moves like rook f7. And then finally you will capture one of these rooks. There's no hurry. So queen takes f3 was played by Gukesh. And knight takes f3. You can play c6 as well. You can play e4. You can take on e1 or a1. This is a very easy task for a player like Gukesh. Yesterday we had a very nice interview with him. He's a very good guy. He's 26, 20 already. He's extremely young. For sure he will be in the top in the next years. Thank you, Andres. So what are the people saying here in the chat? Yeah, we'll be starting at 4:30 a.m. here. Yeah, World Championship starts at 4:30 p.m. Local time in Dubai. Okay? So just to let you know, so you don't miss it. You don't miss the stream with Judith Polgar, Anish Giri, David Howell. All right, so he just took on a1. Makes more sense. And this is very important, guys, for those of you who are beginning with chess. You have to decide which rook to capture. It's always better to capture this one in this case, because you bring this rook to a1 and the rook is basically doing nothing here. If you take this rook on e1, then after rook e1, this rook is much better placed here on e1 than on a1. So this is very basic, but I know some of you are beginning with chess. So Alan from Argentina, he's saying, I'm so excited about the World Championship that I can't go to sleep. This is what chess is creating, It's so amazing. Like, people are so, they so want to see the World Chess Championship. Chess is growing a lot these days. This is so good for the game, for everybody, for players, for coaches, for everything. Since the pandemic started and also this Queen's Gambit series, they helped a lot, actually. I heard there's going to be season number 2 of Queen's Gambit, right? At least I read it somewhere the other day. It was a very good series, I have to say. And also the chess part, because we chess players, we are all the time waiting for some mistakes in the chess games that they show, right? But this was not the case. I believe this was in part thanks to the help of Garry Kasparov and Pandolfini, our renowned coach from the United States. They were collaborating with this series. And they chose pretty well the games that were shown in that series. All right, so rook e1, exchange up for Gukesh. Let's change games. For example, Pranav, 2500, player from India. He is also winning pretty easily here. For example, d takes c3, knight takes c4, d5. Boom. What a nice move. Beautiful. If the knight moves away, then c takes b2. Then when the rook moves to b1, a3 and a2, and white is about to resign, you can play d takes c3. You can even play d5, actually transposing. Very nice. Let's go to the Spanish versus Peru match. Steven Rojas versus Andres Iglesias. Steven is such a strong player. I played against him in Peru in Sac Oliveros school when I visited Peru a couple of years ago. So now he's suffering a little bit in this position, I would say. He is a pawn down, but it's true that he's gonna probably take this pawn back very soon. For example, knight d2, knight takes d5. You can play something like rook f5, right? Because now knight e3 is not possible because of rook takes e5 and rook takes e3. And after king e6, you can play rook g5 maybe. g6 and knight f3. And suddenly this pawn here is very shaky in the center. Richard, this tournament lasts for 3 hours or something like that. I mean, we have 3 rounds today. So don't worry, you can get to sleep, and then we'll meet you guys at 4:30 local time. That means 6:30 in Mexico. You can have breakfast. Lockdowns last year got me back. Yeah, this happened to so many people, right, Sigmunder? So many people that used to play chess when they were kids, and then during lockdowns you have nothing to do basically at your house, and then you get back to chess. Actually, what I did, I started to learn Arabic language. I got a teacher from Morocco, and then she was teaching me for 2 months because I'm going as a commentator to Tunisia in February, so I wanted to learn a little bit about the language. And then my motivation lasts for 2 months. I was 2 months learning. I know how to read. I know how to write some words and letters, which is not easy at all. But now, I quit, because then things started to get back to normal, and I really had no time. All right, so rook b8. Now Steven it's not so bad here. This c4 sacrificing a pawn in order to sacrifice to bring the knight to c3 and to protect the d5 pawn. But now black counterattacks on the b file with rook b8, rook a4, and we'll reach this position probably. Rook c4, let's say rook a7, probably is around equal, right? Black has a very active rook, but at the same time black has a lot of weaknesses who can be easily attacked. So. I played with my dad when I was young. Now playing with my son. That's very cool. What are the teams? Well, I'm gonna tell you guys. So we have a team in this pool A. We have a team from the Emirates, from Align. They are facing the Indian team Belam Al Nexut, which are the favorites of these tournaments. And then we have a team from Peru, from Lima, Saco Liberos. Team from Spain, Torre la Vega in the north of Spain. And we have two more teams. One from the States, San Jose Mission, Hopkins Jr., and then another team from India. I just met their captain from Gujarat, State Chess Association. And he just told me there are so many people playing chess in Gujarat. Okay guys, so let's go to this game. I think, yeah, Tawenka already resigned. This has been a disaster for black out of the opening. So 1-0 for Peru. And then let's stay here a little bit in this position. Bishop to d4. I think black is in good shape in this position because, you know, this square could be a nightmare. For example, bishop f6. Bishop f6, if bishop takes, you can take back with the knight, and now you protect the e4 pawn. The question is, can I take on e4? I think this is very risky. For example, if I play rook f8, f to e8, sorry, bishop f3, now what's the best move here for black guys? Come on. What do you play here with the black pieces? Very simple move. Well, maybe it's not so simple. Yes. I think black is winning some material. So what do you play? Who finds the best solution? Indian team has 3 M's. Yes, next. So strong team. So how to win here with the black pieces? That's right. Very good. Rook takes e2. Boom. The point is, if white takes, then bishop takes d4 check. If you take on f6, now this is going to be checkmate very soon. Because queen c5, the king is forced to go to h1, and then rook takes h2. That's a checkmate. Very good, Aswin. So basically bishop f6 looks very good because if white doesn't do anything, let's say c3, then you can take, and now you can play d5, and the knights are doing a great job. You got some 93 ideas in mind as well. So black is better. And let's go back to Gukesh game. I mean, Al-Naimi is still fighting. Rook d1. 4 minutes in the clock. Pawn on e4 hanging. Not so easy to protect, right? The rook under attack. Let's say rook c8, 96. The pawn on c5 is also hanging. Well, still some fight ahead. Prag already won. This is 1-0 for the Indian team. This is going to be 2-0 for the Indian team, since now knight b3. You're attacking the rook on a1. After rook moves, then you just grab this free fruit on b1, right? And let's see what happens in the last board of this match, where Rindija just played c3. And this also looks extremely bad for black. You know, black hasn't developed anything. The king is still stuck in the center. White has a very strong knight on d5. You have so many ideas in this position. Starting with e6, right? For example, let's say black does something very stupid like h6, then e6 is super strong. After pawn takes, you can play knight c7. You can take on e6, threatening checkmate on e7. So basically, e6, it's a very nasty threat. If you try something like knight f8 in order to stop e6, then you can even grab this bishop on e7, and the king will be extremely naked, in an extremely bad situation in the center, right? Even moves like check and then h3, forcing this knight back to h6. Well, this is just too bad for black. You can even take and then play knight d2 in order to go knight c4 or knight e4 and knight d6. The king is gonna be never safe over there in the center, right? So that's why I believe Rindilla is gonna win this game as well. Must castle here, right? Well, beneficial. Castling is just not possible because of knight takes e7. The bishop is just hanging on e7. You guys can ask me whatever you want. We are here to learn, right? Nobody was born with a grandmaster title. So this is actually the purpose of these broadcasts, you know, just to learn, just to have fun. So ask anything that you have in mind. If I talk about some variations online and then you don't agree, please let me know and we can discuss, you know. So I know Ricardo. Actually, Ricardo, I am in Dubai, so here it's not so early. Here it's like 10:36 a.m. And c3. So what to play with the black pieces? I don't know, man. This looks so bad. I cannot give you a single move that doesn't lose immediately. Maybe bishop d8, but e6, and you cannot take, of course, because after queen e6, then bishop d6. This is also checkmate. And so, well, he went for bishop d8. I believe black's best choice is just to sacrifice a piece by going short castle here. But of course, this is not good news for Mr. Moza, Nasser Al-Shamsi. Now you can take on d7, and then short castle. Let's say this is just a full piece, half for white. So what's going on here? Al-Naimi, he's our hero. You know, he's facing a 2600 player. 1200 rating points. Now we are all supporting Al-Naimi in this game. Rook b8 and now bishop takes e4. Bishop takes e4. So it's not that simple, right? I mean, if you take on c4, then there are some rook c1 ideas, right? These two bishops are hanging. So he took on c4. Now rook c1 looks good. I believe bishop e5 is still possible, attacking the knight on c7. But now rook takes, bishop takes, let's say knight e6, rook f7, and rook takes e5. And it's not that clear in my opinion. Still, of course, great advantage for black. But Al-Naimi is fighting pretty well. Aswin was proposing in the other game, Aswin was proposing knight f8 here. At this point, knight f8, stopping e6. Yeah, but we were just explaining that variation that you take on e7 and then you play h3. And with this king in the center, at least you don't lose immediately. I agree with Aswin, this could be the very best choice for black, but still very, very ugly, you know. Bishop Perkin in the center, h3, you know, forcing this knight back to h6, and then you can even ruin the pawn structure. This is just terrible news for Mr. Moza. Alright, let's stay here with our friend Al-Naimi. Yeah, bishop e5 over the board, right? This was the only way to to save the piece, because if you take on d5, which looks like a nice intermediate move, then you can just capture on c3. Because now if black takes on e4, then this bishop is also hanging, and white could even be better here. You guys know that usually two pieces coordinate much better than a rook and a pawn, right? This is something that beginners they don't have so clear. I see so many games like this, from people who are beginning with chess, like bishop c5, bishop da, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, knight g5. Yeah. No, not g4, but knight g5. When people are starting with chess, they just want to capture an f7 and bring the king out, But this is, of course, much better for black, because two pieces usually are much better than a rook and a pawn. Usually, of course, in chess there are no general rules. I mean, everything depends on the exact position. But this happens a lot for beginners, right? So knight e6, pawn takes d5. Now nice intermediate move, and even after knight takes f8, let's say king takes f8, or even rook takes f8, this is very, very good for black. You have you are like 2 pawns up and plus bishop pair, right? Okay, so now this bishop has to go back. Let's say bishop to g2, and now you can start running with your pawns, right? Let's say b5, 4 in a row, you win. So if pawn takes, then a4, a3, a2, a1. And who's gonna stop this guy? Nobody's gonna stop this guy, The bishop is helping, controlling the a1 square. This is just too easy to win for Gukesh. And 1 minute only for Al-Naimi. Let's stay here with this game. So, yeah, I think now it's time to maybe to resign for Al-Naimi. You can try this move, but after bishop d5, let's say king h8, important move. You don't want to go to g7, since this allows knight e6, and then this allows knight takes f8 followed by bishop c4. And this position, even though black's a pawn up, this is a dead draw, because you cannot push these pawns. You're gonna play f4, king f2, king f3, king e4, and basically you have a fortress here with the white pieces. Opposite color bishops are very drawish endgames, right? So, is this the last day of the tournament? No, actually, the last day is the 29th of November is the last day, the finals and semi-finals. So tomorrow they're having a rest day, I believe. Yeah, they're having a rest day tomorrow, and we'll come back in 2 days, the 28th and the 29th. Okay. So takes, bishop takes d5, rook takes e5. Now rook d8, very good move, protecting this bishop. You couldn't move this bishop away since the bishop on e5 was hanging, but you just protect it, and now these two guys control very properly this knight in g5, right? Bishop c6. Oh, I just blundered the bishop on e5. No worries, guys. This is actually a mistake, because of rook d1 and then rook h1, checkmate. So this is why Gukesh went for bishop c6, inviting his opponent to grab this bishop on e5. He didn't. f4, and now bishop c3. This is just a nightmare for white, since this rook is also joining the party here in d1. And yeah, even rook d2. After rook c5, Al-Naimi just blundered the rook with bishop d4 check, and now it's time to resign. This is gonna be 2-0 for India, for not for India, but for Belamal Nexus. This is 3-0 for India after Pranav victory. And sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is gonna be 4-0 for India, right? Look at this king. It's completely naked. This is gonna be checkmate really soon, right? After king e6, you can even go knight c4, just grabbing the queen. And let's say if you go to g7, you can even play short castle here. I don't care about this knight on d5. I don't care, you know. Let's say even rook queen c2, such a beautiful move. Boom! Bishop h7, unstoppable, right? And queen h7 coming back for checkmate. So beautiful. So king g7 has been played. Also queen h5 makes a lot of sense, threatening checkmate in one move. And after rook f8, you can play rook f1. So let's stay here in this game. Okay, you cannot check on g4, right? Because there is bishop takes g4. So this is the only thing that you need to take in account at this point. I like this line. Short castle, sacrificing this knight because of rook f7 and then queen c2. Very beautiful finish, right? And yeah, black needs to resign pretty soon. Such a strong team. The strongest high school team in the world, right? Probably. I mean, when I was studying in high school, I was the only chess player. Yes, we had a very good table tennis player in my school. He was vice champion of Spain. And there was another guy who was very good in judo. And another basketball player. But not so many chess players. Alright, so king g7. Let's check the Peruvian team. So Steven, well, still fighting against Andres Iglesias. I like black's position. Well, I'm not so sure because there is some rook c6 and rook takes a6. So it should be around equal. This pawn is going to fall, but this pawn is also falling on a6. Then Tahuanca lost. That means 1-0 for Peru. They're still fighting on board number 3. Fiorella. Well, Fiorella has a very bad position here against Laura Aguirre. Let's stay in this game. Because, you know, look at this bishop on b7. It's such a terrible piece, you know. Like, such a monster. Such a good piece, this bishop on b7. And the bishop on a2, it's not doing that much. The king is very safe here on h8, but this king is not. You know, you have so many ideas. Like, you can even bring the rook to g6 to the attack at some point. Of course, you can bring the rook to the center as well. Like, this is a more natural move, probably. This knight can also join the party by g6 and h4, right? Looking for some tasty squares on g2 and f3. No footballers in my high school, actually. Actually, I played football until I was 17 or something. I was playing competitions and also in tennis. But then I had to decide, and then I stayed with chess. But I was a decent football player and also tennis player. I mean, locally, yeah. How do these games get the game so vulnerable? Will be useful to see the mistakes earlier in the game. Yeah, that's a very good idea. For example, let's see, because until here everything's normal, right? Let's see where the mistake is. The big mistake. F5, pawn takes, okay, this is natural. Yeah, this maneuver is very strange in my opinion. You know, bringing the bishop to d5 and then to a2, it's probably a big mistake. Okay, then you leave this king so vulnerable, as you say, right? And actually, you don't have enough pieces to disturb that king, to annoy that king on h8. So this is probably a big mistake. Now, bishop takes c5, using the fact that this knight is, you know, hanging. Probably she had to take on g5, and after queen takes e3, just go back with the bishop to g2. At least you have the bishop pair. Bishop f4 is coming. So, but she didn't take, and then this is just a pawn down and also a worse king, right? It's so easy to make mistakes in chess. So g6, c3, and let's stay here because only 25 seconds for Laura. This is rapid enough. This is rapid game. It's 20 plus 10. Okay. So c3 is being played. Now you can take, of course. You can take, and you can go back with the bishop to g7 to put pressure on c3. But she's got only a few seconds in the clock. Let's see if we get the moves. Because we are not getting them. You know, chess transmission has to improve a lot. You know, whenever I do commentary on some Blitz tournament and then we have to receive the moves by some PGM file, you see that there is so much room for improvement in chess transmissions, you know. People broadcast football, you know, they have a lot of drones and, you know, cameras. This is just very simple. It's just a board, you know. How we still don't have a system that where we don't even lose 1 second in transmission, right? So bishop g7 was played. Very nice move, protecting the king. c4 anyway. I will never capture this rook. I will never take this rook. Taking a1, well, maybe nothing happens, but I mean, you have to be really careful because this bishop sometimes is so much more important than a rook, right? It protects your king. The fianchettoed bishop, it's sometimes even stronger than a rook, right? And so rook takes a1, and now, well, this bishop at least is arriving to c3. This is what I wanted to say, you know, that the bishop on c3 now is gonna create a lot of troubles in black's position, right? Still, the bishop on a2 is still doing nothing because of the pawn on c4, so this is not that bad for black. You can always go to g8 with this king. Now it's not going to be annoyed by the bishop on a2 because of the c-pawn. Rook d1 was played. And now black probably is going to bring some pieces to the center. Maybe rook d8, maybe rook e8, maybe king g8, improving the king's situation. And also this bishop is, you know, creating a lot of troubles along this diagonal. Yeah, fianchetto bishop is very difficult for me to attack, but I'm a beginner. Usually when you are facing, I mean, when you want to attack your opponent and your opponent has a fianchetto bishop, basically the main strategy is just to try to eliminate that bishop. So for example, in some dragon structures, in some Sicilian structures where there's a bishop on g7, what you usually do is you place a bishop on e3, a queen on d2, and then play bishop h6. Because that piece is a very good defensive piece. So king g8. Now, I would love to make this pawn disappear, right? And then this king will be in real trouble. But this pawn is helping black, right? Because the bishop on a2 is, you know, very stupid bishop. So Fiorella, queen e2. Well, trying to go for some tricks here. But I guess black is going to play rook e8. Very simple move, stopping queen e6 check, which is the only threat that white has at this point. So that's why rook e8 makes a lot of sense. Let's see what Laura plays with 10 seconds in the clock. She played rook e8. Now queen f2 from Fiorella. And I will play, if I were black, rook e7 and then rook e8. Suddenly the rooks can't hurt a lot on the e file. Queen c6 was played. Very natural move also, protecting the knight on f6. Keep everything protected. Please check from Rindilla. For Rindilla, I'll go there. Okay. After this game, alright? Now, bishop b1's being played. Maybe intending some tricks. You know, with knight f5 and then bringing a queen to the g file. Nothing happens. For black, you can always play king f8, even king h8, and then bring a rook to g8. But, you know, trying to go for some tricks here. The Peruvian player, queen a4 has been played. Now attacking the rook on d1, 10 seconds only for Fiorella. Now she's gonna make a move. The c4 pawn is under attack as well. Bishop c2 has been played, and now queen c4 attacking the bishop on c3. And now you gotta protect that pawn. Sorry, that bishop. Maybe rook d3 or even queen d2. Bishop a1 was played. 15 seconds for Laura. She's got to finish this game. And knight d5. Well, this kind of moves, you know, this is what I don't like. Because now knight takes f5 and then suddenly there are turbulent waters. Knight f5, very nice trick. If pawn takes, then queen g3, queen g7, probably checkmate. She didn't go for this. She went for bishop b1, and now this gives like a very important tempo. But now Fiorella wants to go bishop a2. Suddenly, chaotic position, 7 seconds for the Spanish rook d8. Now bishop a2 looks extremely strong. Probably the only move is rook b3 over there. Otherwise, bishop takes d5, and then the king is gonna be checkmated. Bishop a2 for Fiorella. And now Laura is in real trouble. Is in real trouble. After rook b3, I even like the move queen b2. Wow, wow. Now this is just a nightmare for black. Incredible. What a blunder by Laura. Now Fiorella is back on top on this game, capturing this knight on d5. 2 pieces versus rook. And a more safe king on g1 than the king on f8. Fiorella is gonna capture for sure this knight on d5, king f8 is being played, and now boom, knight takes f5. Looks like a very interesting move, since after pawn takes, you can even take, you can even play queen g3. No, she didn't take on f5. Rook d2, queen takes a3, and still anything can happen in this game. 3 seconds for the Peruvian. King g2. Very strange move. Now c4 could be an option, since after bishop takes, queen takes a1 is in the air. With c4 you close these diagonal, which is of course extremely dangerous for black, but you also give the d4 square for the queen. Rook b4. Now they are making big blunders. This is completely understandable with so few time on the clocks. Still I like this move. Knight takes f5. Bishop e5 was played, maybe intending bishop c7, followed by rook d7. So, what to play here with black, man? I don't know. I don't know what to play here with the black pieces. King e8. And now maybe queen e2, right? Looking for some discovered checks. Would be awesome here for white. But only 5 seconds for Fiorella. The engine bar is having a heart attack. Bishop d6. Now queen e2 followed by queen e7. Well, queen e2 is almost checkmate. Or even rook e2 is almost checkmate, because the king cannot escape. You have to piece some pieces in between. That means losing more material, right? After rook e2, queen e2 was played. Now rook e4 is the only reasonable move here, since knight e5 just loses on the spot. So rook e4, knight takes e4, and here for example queen g4 in order to go queen e6 checkmate. Looks very natural to me. Wow, okay, what a roller coaster this game. Queen g4, great move from Fiorella, and now Laura is about to resign, since there is no way to cover this e6 square. The only move that I think about is knight f8 in order to cover this square. And now let's see how Fiorella finishes her opponent. Maybe moves like queen g5, not only intending queen e7 checkmate, but also queen e5. You have 2 interesting squares to check your opponent. Queen e2 back. I don't see the point of this move yet, but we'll see. Of course, black is completely losing, but still in time trouble. Everything's possible in chess. Queen a5. Now queen takes e4. This is just game over. This is just game over, guys. Now queen b7, and these forces checkmate actually. King e6 is not legal. King e8 runs into queen e7, and queen c7 runs into queen c7. So queen b7. This is just victory for Fiorella, but she's gonna make a move. There she goes, queen b7, and now this is over. This is game over. Victory for Fiorella. Let's check, well, everything. So this is 2-0 for the Indian team. Belamal. This was 3-0. Rindilla won, and this was, sorry, let me check. Yeah, India won 5-0. Sorry, Belamal Nexus won 5-0. Peru is already Peru already beat Torre la Vega, since there is 3-0 right now, and Gujarat State Chess Association beat San Jose 3.5 versus 1.5. So they're still playing this game. Black is completely winning. King g4, rook d4. Now King h3 probably. It's not gonna be easy, right? This game, since white only needs to change these 2 pawns for this guy here in d6. Since rook versus rook and knight, it's a draw, right? So h5, and now I would never take on h5. This is a big mistake. You gotta play g5. You wanna win this game. Rook f4. Now king g3 only move, and then you play g5. This is what you should do here. You never take on h5, please, because rook versus rook and knight is a dead draw. So that's why Steven went for g5, and now it's gonna be pretty easy, I believe, because now you're gonna put a lot of pressure against the pawn on g4. It's gonna be tough for white to protect that pawn. You're gonna have to go with the king to h3, which is never a good idea. And now knight f6 looks winning. Right after rook e6, you can take on g4 with a check, and then you can go back to f4 with that rook. And Steven Rocas is winning his game, and Zach Oliveras from Peru won the match. Yeah, rook takes e4, check. The king has to go, and then rook f4 back. And you get this pawn on h5, and that means we'll have rook plus knight plus pawn versus rook, which is, of course, completely lost for white in this position. I love your commentary, Pepe. It is very late in USA, but I am staying awake for this. Thank you, Beneficial. Thank you. Good to have you here. My last time in USA was in the St. Louis Chess Club. I was working there for 2 weeks before the pandemic. 2019, I believe. Yeah. Okay, and now Andres Iglesias resigned. So now it's time to make a break, to go for a break, guys. And we'll come back in about half an hour or something for the next round. So I hope you guys are enjoying this kids tournament here in Dubai, in the Spanish pavilion. If you are here visiting Dubai, just come and say hello here. We have a giant chessboard. We have a lot of chess going on. There are big chess personalities like Judith Polgar, so many people related to chess. And of course, the World Chess Championships also taking place here in the Dubai Expo. So we're having a lot of fun. So stay tuned and see you in some minutes. Everybody needs somebody. What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing? Welcome to this round number 4. This Pool A. Now with the Bellamal Nexus team facing San Jose Hopkins Jr. from the States. So let's see what happens in the game. Gukesh versus Kevin Pan, strong player. So this will be a very interesting game. And what else do we have? Zach Oliveros from Peru. They are facing the Gujarat State Chess Association from India and Alain Culture and Chess Club. They are facing the Spanish team from Torrelavega. Alright, so we have the Queen's Gambit with c4, e6, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3. Here you have other alternatives, for example g3, entering in the Catalan opening. Bishop g5 is also interesting, even e3, but knight c3 is probably the main line. Here different alternatives, once again, bishop b4, the Ragozin, c5, going for the Tarrasch or the semi-Tarrasch, bishop e7, main line of the Queen's Gambit, d takes c4, the Vienna variation, and c6, this semi-Slav variation as well. So here bishop g5, now you play d takes e4, e4, b5, you know, this goes to the one of the most difficult lines in chess, the Moscow, sorry, after h6, bishop h4, we have the Moscow variation, and this is the Botvinnik variation. For example, Alexei Shidov is one of the biggest experts in this line. h6, bishop h4, g5, this is an extremely complicated line. But Kevin, he went for bishop e7, e3, knight b d7, this is more calm. And hi Genesis, how are you doing? So c takes d5 from Gukesh. Main line I believe is bishop e d3 or even bishop e2. C takes d5, usually black replies with e takes d5. This makes a lot of sense because now this bishop can have a life. Right now this diagonal is open for this bishop to be developed, and now bishop d3 was played by Gukesh. There are different plans here for white. Usually you want to go short castle, and then you can start what we call a minority attack. What is a minority attack? Well, you want to play b4 and b5, and then you want to ruin this pawn structure on the queen side. Your idea basically is to take on c6, and then when these pawns are traded, the pawn on c6 will be a constant weakness and a constant headache for black's position. If black takes on b5, then d5 will become weak in the future. But of course black has several ideas to face the minority attack on the queen side, and then we'll try to explain them, sorry, if we arrive to that point. So bishop d3 is being played. Now black can go for short castle, or black can go even h6, and after bishop h4, knight e4 is always an idea as well. Why? Because after bishop e7, queen e7, you arrive on time to protect the e4 knight, and then you want to bring this knight to f6, probably the bishop to f5, and black is very, very solid in this kind of positions. Is Buddy Pranav playing today again? Yes, Gori, he's playing. Let's check Pragnananda game versus Maurya Palooza. And alright, e4 c5, Sicilian defense, knight f3 e6, d4 takes, a6, this Paulsen variation, bishop d3, bishop c5, knight to b3, and bishop to a7. The bishop on a7 is doing a great job here, targeting the f2 pawn. So short castle, and I like the move here, queen e2, in order to play some sort of Maroczy setup. But of course short castle is not a bad move. Knight c3, knight c6, and here, you know, you can try to trade this bishop, these dark squared bishops with the maneuver queen e2 and then bishop e3. That makes a lot of sense to me, since this guy here is very dangerous, as I'm telling you. And but of course there are other ideas. You can try to go king h1 followed by f4 as well. So let's see how Maurya Palooza plays. King h1. And I believe that short castle followed by d5 could be an interesting plan for black. Let's say d5 straight away, pawn takes, and maybe queen h5 is an interesting alternative here, just stopping black from going short castling. So we'll see. Of course, black can also go short castle straight away, but I believe then f4 is coming from Palooza. Gukesh. Knight h5 takes, and short castle probably. Then this knight on h5 can be regrouped. Sometimes you just play knight f6 back, but usually you play g6, and then this knight can come back to g7, and even in some positions this bishop can come back to f5 once there is a pawn on g6 and a knight on g7, because of course you like to trade these bishops with the black pieces, since you know this bishop on d3 is a great piece. This bishop is not so great on c8, right? There are too many pawns on the light squares in this position. Sorry guys for so many arrows. I know it can get a little bit messy, but you know, I know there are so many people who cannot follow the coordinates. So if I say knight to c5 and then blah 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 to f4, blah 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 to g5, you can get lost. So I'm trying to make things easier for beginners, right? Okay, white could also try to go for long castle, but I believe this is not the way to go here. And black has also the idea of going knight b6 and bishop e6, followed by long castle, right? We've seen that in this kind of positions as well. So what else do we have? Let's go to check Leon Mendonca. c4, then e3, c6, d4, bishop d3, b6, e4, takes. Yeah, black is very solid here. Nicolas Jan. Black is gonna play with bishop b7, short castle, and then at some point black will try to open up this diagonal, right, with c5 in order to, you know, have a better bishop, right? Better prospects for this guy on b7. And what else do we have? Knight c3, the 4 knights opening, bishop b5, knight d4, and knight takes e5, queen e7. Let's say knight f3, knight takes, and for example, queen takes, e4 check. Let's say queen e2, takes. You know, it's a tricky position actually, because I wouldn't like to play king d8. Maybe I can play knight d5, and if I go c4, I'm still on time to kick this knight with a6. Right? Am I right or am I wrong? Prague, he went for short castle followed by d5. The question is, should I close this position with e5? I just don't like it for white actually, because I can play f6, and if pawn takes, rook takes f6. And this is very good for black, I would say, you know. You can continue with queen d6, bishop to d7, rook a to f8. I have a very solid center, you know. These pawns give me too much space, you know. These pawns control too many squares. The knight on b3 is pretty clumsy, right? It's not doing much in this position. So I don't like closing the position with e5. I believe we should maintain the tension here in the center. I don't know. Maybe just develop pieces by playing bishop d2. And then queen f3, stuff like that, rook e1. And white is okay here. But closing the position with e5, just don't like it. I think we are not on time. What's up, Victor? How's your day going? So tell me, guys, what are you doing? Are you are you any of you at work? Are you at school following this stream? Or what are you doing? You are just chilling at home. Some people from the toilet watching this stream? I know there are some. Don't lie to me. Before we used to read, like 20 years ago, we used to read the toothpaste instructions, right? While we were in the toilet. But nowadays, we have smartphones, and we can watch some chess streams, So life is getting better, step by step. Chilling at home, emails, it's saying. All right. It's d5. Also, you could think about bringing this queen to the action, like on e1 and then to h4, stuff like that, right? In order to keep an eye on the h7 pawn. So, we'll see. We'll see. Meanwhile, Gukesh versus Kevin. Knight b6 and g6. These moves were part of the plan, as I was telling you guys, and Gukesh went for long castle. The king is usually coming to b1, of course, because later on you want to use the c file, and even more if the black king lands on the queen side. So now bishop e6 makes a lot of sense, right? Let's say king b1. Let's say long castle. Now rook c1, knight a4. Even the king sometimes arrive to a1, and then even this rook can come to b1 and the other to c1, and then you are trying to create some troubles along the queen side. Home office, watch chess, and work. That's good, Helder. Knight g7. Now, I think black's idea is to play bishop f5. Trading this light square bishop is always a good business for black, as I told you. So, if I were white, I would play g4 here. Prophylaxis against bishop f5, sorry. I would probably go g4. I don't know what you guys think, but g4 looks to me like the most natural move, stopping bishop f5 ideas. I know that black has some h5 possibility here, but I think this is just, nothing happens really. We can just play king b1, and taking on g4 is not a good business for black, since the h file gets opened and black is not ready yet to open the h file, right? It is 2:42 a.m. in Peru. It's time to sleep, but I need to see how Zach Oliveros plays here. Luis Alexander is saying. Let's take a look on Zach Oliveros. Steven, Zach Oliveros' team is playing versus Samdani. Steven has a very good position right here. Right? Actually, I like the move knight takes d7, because black is forced to take with the queen, otherwise d5 falls. If black takes with knight, so after queen d7, there's this nice move, knight a4, and suddenly black's position is about to collapse. How do you protect this guy here? How do you protect the c5 pawn at the same time? Of course, you don't want to bring the queen to c6. There's so many x-rays with this rook on c1, and you don't want to bring the queen to d8. This looks so, well, you are actually losing a pawn after d takes c5. So the only move probably is here, queen b5, and now you have even this funny move, bishop c7, and I don't see a way for black to keep playing. After knight d7, you can even think about taking on c5 and then on d5. This looks very, shaky for Zamdani. Probably c5 was a mistake. Maybe you had to play more solid, like something like rook d8, rook e8, sorry, and bishop to d6, something like that. Because after c5, I just believe black is not ready to open the position up. White has all pieces, putting pressure in the center. I'm working remotely so I can watch the Nepo Magnus. Victor Barreiro is saying. So I guess like many people have home office these days. With the COVID situation. My brother, he works in IT. He's a telecommunication engineer, and since the pandemic started, he didn't go back to the office. So he's been working from home like for almost 2 years already. So, Pepe, I saw yesterday a tweet about Jonathan Tisdale. He had to help somebody with the tie in Dubai. Yeah, I mean it happened the same to me as you say with Solari, the football player in Madrid. I don't know how to do that, man. That's why I'm not wearing it. So c5, knight takes e7 is a very natural and direct move. Let's go back to the first board. g4 by Gukesh. This guy knows his chess, right? And now probably bishop e6 is very natural, and let's say king b1 long castle. And now different ideas. The first one is to push this pawn all the way down to a5, and why not to a6, right? And the problem with a4 is that now the b4 square is very weak. For example, after a4, queen b4 looks to me like a decent try to stop this push, right? So second idea is to play rook c1, knight a4. You can even try to bring the other knight to b3 and c5, also the king to a1, and to start even an attack with the b pawn at some point with the rook on b1. So these positions are very rich, are very flexible. You have many different plans that you can try, and this is why these positions are so interesting to play. Okay, what about Brack? Brack, d5, queen h5. Very direct approach, intending to go e takes d5 followed by queen h7. Checkmate, but Brack goes for knight b4. And now the point is, if you take on d5, there exists this intermediate move, knight takes d3, removing the attacking piece against h7. And now after c takes d3, you can just grab this pawn here and black enjoys the bishop here. So Palooza went for rook f3, very aggressive Palooza. D takes e4 from Pragnananda. And now the question is, what happens if you go bishop takes e4? I believe f5 is strong enough, and after bishop d3 back, you can just grab this bishop once again. So Palooza took with the knight. Now of course the threat is very simple. You want to play knight f6 check, and after pawn takes, queen h7 checkmate. So knight f5 was played by Pragnananda, just putting a knight in between, right? So I think this position is very difficult to play with the white pieces, but I mean, for example, after bishop d2, knight takes e3, rook takes e3, queen e7, I believe you have some decent attacking chances here with the white pieces. Look at this bishop. Suddenly it's a monster on c3. Suddenly you have a lot of ideas with knight f6, a lot of ideas with rook h3, even g4. So Prag has to be very, very careful in this position as well. Right? I mean, don't go g4 here. This is too much, I would say. You have even this possibility of going queen h4. Very beautiful defensive resource here. And after takes, you know, white clearly did something wrong with its position, right? So let's see what Palooza plays right now. And yeah, probably bishop d2 is the best move. You need to bring this rook into play, and also you have some background problems, right? Once you move this bishop away, these background problems are completely gone. This bishop, this rook controls this background. right? And this is also something that beginners forget, completely forget, right? From time to time. Background problems. This king is not safe here at all. You need to give that king some fresh air to breathe. Is that 2610 rated versus 1862 rated? That's right, Red Lucy. There's a big difference between Prague and Palooza. Yes, this Indian team is probably the best high school team in the world. So Pragnananda, after a3, decide to take on d3, of course. Now rook d3 is gonna come for sure. And now you can play queen c7. You can go for queen h4 as well. The endgame is a bit better for black, naturally, because of the bishop pair. So taking with a pawn doesn't make any sense to me, because for example after queen d5 centralizing the queen, now this knight is attacked and you don't have so many good squares for this knight. Then you can even continue with b5, the bishop is coming to b7, right? You can try to checkmate me, but it's not going to work after the simple h6. So that's why Palooza took with the rook, and now probably Prague is not gonna go for the endgame. You know, probably Prague is keeping the queens over the board with moves like queen c7, for example. Queen e8 is also a possibility. Queen e7. The problem with queen e7, I don't like this square for the queen, because after bishop d2, white is threatening to go bishop b4. So that means we have to waste another tempo, parrying or trying to parry that threat with bishop to b4. So that's why I don't like the queen on e7. I prefer any other square. So c7 or h4. I don't like the queen on f6, of course, because of knight f6, right? We don't have to be very smart. Guys, how many hours for Magnus's match? Magnus versus Nepo match. It starts exactly, let me tell you, it starts in the 4 hours and 36 minutes. 4 hours and 36 minutes. Alright? I'm curious to see how many people are already waiting for the World Championship to start. Let me just check. For example, in the English streaming, like Judith and Anish broadcast. Well, in David Howell broadcast. One sec. Yeah, 436 people waiting for this broadcast to start, you know. This is pretty amazing. Wow. And Nepo has the white pieces in the first game, yeah. I think he's gonna go for e4. And then I'm very curious to see what Magnus is going to play with the black pieces. I would love to see an aggressive opening with the black pieces for Magnus, like a Sicilian, or maybe a surprise like some Caro-Kann could be played as well. But the most solid opening, of course, is e5. Yeah, and probably we'll see some Italian Rui Lopez from Nepomniachtchi. I think we have big chances to see e4, e5 in today's game, but of course I would love to see something different, you know. And naturally, in every world championship, we see a lot of theoretical novelties in the opening, so we can learn a lot actually. Yeah, also Judith Polgar with Anish. That's right, Mini. They will be doing commentary. Actually, Judith will be doing commentary from this place in Dubai. And Anish will join her remotely from the Netherlands. Modern, I don't think we'll see a modern in the World Championship. It's just too risky, this opening in top chess, you know. You just give up the center and, white gets a very nice edge out of the opening. So I say like if we are not talking about top chess or elite chess, every opening is playable. But when you come to classical chess in top tournaments, there are a few openings that are quite risky, and one of them is the modern for sure. Of course, yeah. As vice versa is saying, the modern has more opportunities for novelties, but that doesn't mean like if you play h6 in the first move, then you have more chances for a novelty as well. But it's just a bad move. I mean, I'm not saying the modern is about opening, of course, but I'm pretty sure that we won't see many modern. We won't see any modern defense in this World Championship. Of course, in Blitz it's a different story, and also rapid chess. But classical chess is very hard to see. Also, openings like Scandinavian or Accelerated Dragon, Accelerated Dragon, you have the problem of the Moroxi system, which is very annoying. Whoa! Palooza just blundered with bishop to b5. Palooza! Bishop b5, and then you just lose an exchange pretty fast. So Prague is gonna go for bishop b5, no doubt. Good day, Ramondel. Good day, Manu. How are you guys doing? Alpha Zero novelties. Yeah, I'm very curious to see. Well, we won't see it, but I'm very curious to know how they trained for. I mean, I read that Nepomniachtchi was using some super machine from some Russian university, right? And I don't know about Alpha Zero. If Magnus, for example, had the chance to use it at some point, if they're collaborating or not, but have no idea. Yeah, I read about that supercomputer mini. Yeah, using neural networks and all that stuff. Yes. I mean, supercomputers. What you do with them is just you get a deeper analysis faster, But the important thing here is to see what kind of software they're using, because the only difference between a supercomputer and your laptop is just how fast do you get to certain depth in the analysis, right? So that means that in order to reach depth number 50 in your laptop, you will take like 30 minutes, and in a supercomputer, boom, in 1 second you'll be there. That's why all professional chess players, they're using chess supercomputers. You can even rent them. There are some servers. I've done that. In order to prepare my chessable courses. I rent those supercomputers, and then you pay 2 euros per hour or something like that, and then you can use those supercomputers with like 80 CPU or something. And Prague just won his game. Rook c3, knight takes c3 check, pawn takes, queen takes c3, nice move. And this is just a whole rook cap for Pragnananda, and Palooza resigned 1-0 for the Indian team. And now, let's stay in this game, where Gukesh will try to create some troubles here on the queen side. Probably rook c3 is very interesting, to go rook a3, trying to, to create some weaknesses, make black move this pawn or this pawn, and of course, you don't want to move the pawn structure here, but after rook a3, white is actually forcing you. Also, knight e5 should be a candidate move at this point, right? There's some tricks on c6, some tricks on f7 and g6, but rook c3 in order to double rooks at some point, and also to bring the rook to a3 makes a lot of sense to me. What's up, Grandmaster Gborg? How are you doing? And so 10 minutes for Gukesh. Guys, that we lost the battle against machines in in the 90s, right? In 97, I believe, right? Yeah, 97 in New York, Garry Kasparov lost versus Deep Blue. In 96, Kasparov beat Deep Blue in Philadelphia. But then IBM, they asked for a revenge and for a rematch, and actually Deep Blue beat Kasparov like 3.5 versus 2.5 in the last game. Kasparov with the black pieces lost pretty quickly actually. That was the match of the 20th century actually, humans versus machines. Very interesting. So Nepomniachtchi still uses stockfish. I don't know. I'm telling you what. Grandmasters usually they use stockfish. Lila Zero is also interesting. So I think they will use a combination of every engine. Because every engine has their strengths and also weaknesses. So I'm pretty sure that they're not only using one engine, but a combination of all of them. Yeah, Miguel Illescas was helping Deep Blue. Actually, I actually interviewed him for a podcast that I'm doing in the next months. So Miguel is probably the chess player that knows more about computing and the IT guy that knows more about chess. Sad day. So rook c3 from Gukesh, intending to go rook a3, c5. Whoa, this is extremely risky. I don't like this move at all. And the thing is, after d takes c5, if you take on c5, well, suddenly this knight is perfectly placed on d4. You can play rook takes or queen f4 check, king a8, rook takes, queen takes, and knight d4, stuff like this. And you are threatening to go knight e6 and then queen f7, and the rook is coming to c1. I think this is a very bad choice for black here, because now the knight will join the party on d4, and this is an isolated pawn structure where white has full control on the position. c5. I don't like this position, and of course, sorry guys, rook a3. It's a possibility as well. You play b6, then for example you can play bishop b5, and knight a5 is coming, knight c6. Very, very dangerous. You play a6. I'm thinking about sacrificing here the bishop. Pawn takes, queen takes, and then rook b3 is a big threat. You play rook c7, then queen a8 checkmate. So queen a8 coming, rook b3 coming. Many threats in this position. So probably rook a3 is even more natural than d takes e5. I don't know. Yeah, after rook a3, b6. Somebody's suggesting there on the Twitch channel. I believe that now you can play d takes e5 as well. Also b5 looks to me very natural, but d takes e5 even stronger, because if you take with a pawn, rook b3, king e8, and bishop b5. If a bishop lands on c6, it will be game over. So you had to take with the rook, then the knight on d5 once again. On d4, Sora is making a good job. Knight c6 is a threat all the time. Knight b5 is also a possibility. Some queen f4 ideas as well. Very, very dangerous for black here. Gukesh took on c5. And now probably black is just capturing here on c5. Okay. So 8 minutes for Gukesh. And now you can still play rook a3 here. Queen f4, rook c5, Rook c1. Rook c1 I don't like it because rook takes c3, rook takes c3, and then rook h1. So my three candidate moves here are rook takes e5, queen f4 check, and rook a3. So you have to decide between these moves. Queen f4 was played by Gukesh. And also the queen of f4 is doing a great job because the c7 square could be very important in the future. Imagine these rooks are off the board and then some knight arriving to b5, you know? He intended to jump to c7. And so, of course, don't go king c8 here, yeah? You deserve to go to prison if you go to c7. Queen c7 also loses because of rook takes c5, right? And now you cannot take the rook for obvious reasons, and then the queen is just protected by this pawn, so this is just losing a rook immediately. So basically, I mean, you shouldn't go rook c7 either, because, I mean, you're gonna be pinned for the rest of your life, you know? That's why Kevin Pan, he went for king a8. You know what pan means in Spanish? Pan means bread. The new Indian generation is scary. Mihal Sarin, Gukesh, Arjun, Erigasi, Pragnananda. I agree with you, Mini. They're extremely talented. They're hard workers, and they're very young. You know, so it won't be strange to see like 10 Indians in the top 30 in the next years. You know, this Erigasi guy is super talented, and he's improving a lot. And you know, they're all nice guys. And you talk to them, they are always extremely polite. I really like all these Indian players, you know. So queen takes c5, and now, well, you can decide between queen e5, knight d4, rook c1. All of them are completely playable here, right? Rook c1 makes a lot of sense. So we shall see. But knight d4 is probably the most natural one, because, you know, you create direct threats. For example, with knight a6 followed by queen f7. One second, guys. Alright, knight d4 from Gukesh. And what to play now with the black pieces? For example, you stop knight b5, then knight takes e6. Looks winning material already, because you take with the knight. Queen f7, you take with the pawn. This pawn is hanging, right? You can play even queen f6. And if you try to go back with the queen, which makes some sense, right? Because you want to keep everything protected. Now knight b5 is super strong. Knight c7 is the threat. Naturally, if you play a6, knight c7, king a7, you got this fantastic move, queen d4 check, grabbing this knight on g7, and after knight b5, you protect the c7 square. Now you guys are gonna tell me what's the winning move here. Once again, I'm gonna insist you a lot on forcing moves, captures, checks, and threats. What are the possible captures in this position? Knight takes a7. Is it a good move? It's not that bad, but it's not winning. Can I take on f7? No, this is ridiculous. So captures are not so interesting. Captures, checks. What are the checks here? Knight c7 and knight c7, which is stupid, and queen b8, which is also stupid. And what are the threats here? How can we threaten the queen or checkmate? Threatening the queen is actually not possible. But how can we threaten checkmate here? That means attacking the a7 pawn. There are two ways to attack the a7 pawn. The first one is queen a4, and then we realize that after a6 nothing really happens. And what is the second way of attacking a7? Queen d4, as Thomas is suggesting on the Twitch channel. And this is the move, because now you attack checkmate, you threaten checkmate, and you also threaten the knight on g7. So this move is completely winning. Alright, you see that it's not so hard. It's actually like a very rational way of computing all the forcing moves, and then you realize that one of them is just winning. You know, you go step by step, and then white wins. Did this GM make all the Pepe emotes? Pepe love? Yeah, man, I don't know. I see in all these streamings like from super famous streamers like some Pepe meme, right? I don't know what that even means. But yeah, it's becoming a thing, this Pepe emote, right? Alright, so queen e7 and knight b4, sorry, knight b5 on the board already. Now some bad things are gonna happen here for Kevin Pan. Do you speak Portuguese? I understand something, you know, Portuguese is very similar to Spanish, but I don't really speak it. And all Portuguese people, they speak Spanish, you know. I don't know how they do it, but we all Spanish. We don't speak Portuguese, but they speak Spanish, you know. It's one of my favorite countries, Portugal. And I'm also going to Brazil in January to play a tournament over there in the beautiful island of Florianopolis. Queen d4, and now it's time to resign for Kevin Pan, since there's no way to save the piece on g7. This is over, and Gukesh will get the point for the team. One minute, and I think Kevin is gonna resign. So let's change the game. So Gukesh is winning. Prak also won. So this is 2-0 for the Indians. And now let's check Leon Mendonca, John Grandmaster. Bishop to g3. Now the first move that comes to my mind, if black does something stupid, let's say a6, is rook takes d6. I think it's not that interesting, because after queen takes d6, I was thinking about knight f7, but I missed, you know, this strong move, queen c6. Queen c6. Now I cannot capture the rook on d8 since there is checkmate on g2. Thank you, Bukarm. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, so Mini is asking if a6 was possible here. a6 was possible, but after knight c7, you gotta go to a7, right? Because if you go to b8, then knight e6 just wins, or even knight d5 check. But if you go to a7, then you play queen d4, and after king b8, you capture on g7, and you cannot take on c7 since the rook on h8 is just hanging. So this is why a6 was also losing. I mean, the big mistake here was queen e7, but it was already a very difficult position for Kevin. I think all went wrong after the move c5, right? c5 was too risky. Maybe it was time to bring this knight to e8, and then, you know, to bring it to d6 or something. But, you know, Gukesh was posing some troubles, you know, with this rook a3 idea. So very good game from Gukesh. So 2-0 for the Indians. Now Leon Mendonca playing solid chess. b3 now. And let's check the game, the match between Peru and Sacoliveros and Gujarat State Chess Association. So what's going on? Steven Rojas, he's much better here. Why is much better? For example, after bishop takes f6, pawn takes f6, we got just this move, queen f6, and this king is just too weak, right? You got ideas with rook e5 and rook d5, going for the checkmate. So a5 is being played, and now you can just collect the fruit, right? Bishop takes b8, and after rook takes b8, you can play even queen a7, double attacking these two pieces. So after queen a7, actually Sahar Samdani resigned, and Steven Rojas got the full point. So 1-0 for Peru. Diego Flores also winning. Look at this pawn here. This is gonna be 2-0. Henry is also much better in this position with the white pieces. This knight looks a smart guy here on b2, but it's actually very well controlled by this bishop on b5, controlling every jump. So basically there is tremendous pressure on c7. This pawn is just going to collapse. This position is just about to collapse. A lot of mating ideas on the background for Henry. So this is going to be 3-0 for Peru. So that means they're already winning the match. Great news for Zach Oliveira's team. Alright, so what else? Let's go to Leon Mendonca. Game, 1 minute each player. We're now in time trouble. Naturally, queen d8 was a threat. It was checkmate, that's why bishop c7 is being played. Very good defensive move from Nicolas Jan. And I think black is fine here, actually. So my idea is just to continue with queen c6 probably, and maybe... So let's say queen d2 for example, even queen c6. And black is fine here. Very solid position for Nicolas. Let's see if the Grandmaster is able to to put pressure against Nicolas, which is 800 rating points behind Leon Mendonca. Queen c8 is being played. Very good move as well. Solid chess. The bishop c7, queen c7, nothing happens. This 3 versus 2 is very well controlled by these two pawns. Black has a very nice bishop in a very good diagonal, so queen e3 is being played now, putting pressure against c5. Now you can take on g3 actually. There are no background problems anymore, so black is able to take on g3. And then maybe on f3. I think queen and knight coordinates pretty well. But I understand it's very hard to give up this bishop, right? The bishop on a8. Looks like a very decent piece. But also white is intending to go knight e5, for example knight d3, putting pressure against the c5 pawn. You can also try with the knight on e5 to push these guys here with g4 and g5. That's why this move was played queen c6, prophylaxis against knight e5, since then there's mate on g2. So how to continue here? You got this funny move, b4. He went for queen f4. Intended to go queen b8, almost checkmate. So you should control that square. Maybe knight d7. I like this move, knight d7. Controlling b8, controlling e5. Does a nice job, this knight on d7, right? And the queen cannot come to e4, because there's these two pieces here on the big diagonal. Queen h4 is being played. Now, why not? g4 and g5. That's Leon Mendonca plan. Wow, now queen e7 is also very annoying. Queen e7 is super annoying move, pinning this knight, threatening even queen e8 in that position, winning a piece. So only 13 seconds for Nicolas. He's got to make a move, not easy. Maybe bishop c6. He took on f3 and now queen c8, very solid. very solid. Maybe f4, f5. We got the Facundo twins right now in this position. So f4, you know, to go f5, he decides to go for bishop e4. And very nice bishop, controlling everything, you know. I'm the king of the dance floor. Everybody wants to dance with me, you know. I'm a salsa expert. Look at this bishop. And now maybe it's time for Facundo. Who solves all your problems? Facundo. And so f4. I think g6 is needed. Otherwise f5 is just coming. You can never take on f5 since after bishop takes, you know, there's a big pin against the knight on d7. So f4 actually threatens f5. And you play knight f6, then the bishop on f3 is doing a great job, you know, controlling this knight. These pawns are now extremely weak. Also, queen a7 ideas, also g4, g5 ideas. 7 seconds only for Nicolas Jan. 4 seconds. He's got to move a4. Now, you know, I never believe these pawn sacrifices. I just take them all, you know. B takes a4. And now, yeah, this is what Leon Mendonca does. Give me that pawn, baby. Then I'm just pushing it. So, queen takes c5, queen takes a4, and maybe a3. You keep everything under control. All these pawns are protected. There's no check on d1 since the bishop controls that square. There's no jumps with this knight since this bishop controls every single jump, right? So I believe, yeah, a3. And now you can play queen b4 in this position and start pushing, right? The c pawn and the a pawn. So probably it's time to resign almost for Jan Nicolas. G6. Now I like queen b4 just to kick this queen away, right? To start pushing with a4. Queen d4, very strange move, because now queen takes a3. It's possible since there's a knight on f6 hanging. Okay, he didn't do it. Instead, he went for king g7, just pinning this knight for the rest of the game. But now it's extremely easy for white to proceed. Just push the c pawn. So thanks for playing chess, for being here. I'm happy that you are practicing your English. So c5, and then there's no way to stop this. Actually, king g6, but then c6, c7, c8. Bye-bye, sayonara, baby. It was a pleasure. We were good friends, but now I want to see you anymore. Leave me alone. c6, c7, c8. Bye-bye, my friend. Yeah, he's trying to, you know, to block this pawn from c7, but then this wise guy will try to make it to a8 once again. a5, a6, a7, and then when the queen takes, then c7. Now black tries, you know, to close this diagonal by playing e4, but the thing is you can never play e4 since I can just take this guy on e4 because of the pin along this diagonal. So before going e4, black will have to waste another tempo by playing king g6, 98, now a6. Black is fighting very hard. Black is fighting very hard, but it's not going to be enough. Now queen b6 is another idea. Also a6, a7. Nicolas will have to resign very soon. f6, and now a6. a7. End of story. There we go. a6. Push that, baby. Push it, baby. Push it, 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 baby. mm, that's it. Yes, Flindorka. Magnus versus Nepo game starts in 4 hours. In 4 hours and 4 minutes. Okay? And he resigns. Okay, let's check the results then. So Peru is winning 4-0 already. Zach Oliveros beat Gujarat State Chess Association 3.5 versus 1.5. And Torre La Vega beat Alain Kircher. So that means that Belamal Nexus is leading the pool with 8 points. Then second is Zach Oliveros with 6 points. And then in the third and fourth place, we have Gujarat State Chess Association from India and Torre La Vega from Spain. Okay, guys, so this has been all for the second round. And now we'll make another break and we'll come back probably in about half an hour for the last round from today. Because in this evening, you guys know that we'll be doing commentary for the World Chess Championship as everybody, right? We are so much looking forward to it. So thanks for being there. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for interacting. This is very fun that you guys are there. So see you in a while, yeah? Take care. Hello, good people! I'm here back with all of you guys to follow the 5th round of this Pool A of the World School Chess Tournament. And now the Indian team, the leaders, Belamal Nexus, they're facing the Spanish team from Torre la Vega. So we have Gukesh facing Andres Iglesias. Andres Iglesias is a strong player, 2100 rating points. And Gukesh, of course, is a superstar with 2600. And one of the best chess players in the world. It's going to be tough for Iglesias. You know what Iglesia means in Spanish? It means church. So, Iglesias Ferreira. Andres. Now, e4 is being played. And Pragnananda is facing Dani Tawenka. Knight f3, d5, g3, knight c6, d4, and bishop g4. g2, queen d7, and h3. Asking this bishop where he wants to go. Bishop f5, now c3. Very humble move from Pragnananda. Maybe one of the ideas is to push with b4, right? For example, a plan could be b4, knight bd2, knight b3, right? Going for the c5 square, which is tasty. Another option, of course, is the move here c4, but Prag wanted to cover the b4 square. So knight f6, knight bd2, sorry guys, e6, short castle, and bishop d6 from Dani. You know, he wants to cover the e5 square naturally, and I think black is fine here. Has a very interesting position. I don't know what the plan is for black here. I would say that at some point you should need to push the c5 pawn. The knight on c6 is not ideal, of course. I can read all of your messages, Fedor. I can read you, and I'm reading you. And also, guys, on Twitch and on the Chess24 webpage as well. So c4 from Prague. You know, now the point is you go knight b4. I guess you can just go a3. You don't worry about knight c2 because after rook a2 the knight is completely trapped and cannot go out. And actually you are threatening moves like knight h4 or even b4, and then you eventually will be capturing this knight on c2 with a great advantage for white. So that's why after c4, black took on c4, knight take on c4, short castle, and now, you know, I think Prague has a very nice position. For example, knight f to e5. This is what I wanted to say. You can never take with the knight, since after d takes c5 there is a fork. Versus, against these two pieces, the bishop on d6 and the knight on f6. So that means that you can't really take, well, you can take on e5, but after pawn takes, rook takes e1, let's say something like knight e8, this is a fantastic position for white, you know. The rook is landing on d7 pretty soon, and you know, you have the bishop pair, the knight on e8 doesn't have any life. This pawn is controlling basically everything. So you can continue with b3, bishop a3 as well. This is just a disaster for black. So maybe the best option is queen e8 here, and of course this is very ugly for black, you know, because now the pawn structure is completely ruined. The bishop on g2 is putting great pressure against the c6 pawn, and sooner or later this looks like, you know, very hard for black to protect this pawn on c6. So Pragnananda with a great position already. Let's go back to Gukesh game. This is a Caro-Kann defense, very solid. Knight c3, knight f3, the two knights variation. Here you have several options, including d4, d takes e4, bishop g4, d takes e4, and knight f6. Queen e2. Of course, you shouldn't go knight b to d7, since there is knight d6 checkmate. I'm sitting in Dubai, guys, in the Expo, in the Spanish pavilion. So if you guys are around or you guys have some holidays, it's a good time to travel to Dubai, since Magnus is playing Nepo just, you know, 100 meters away from here. So knight b d7, this queen d6, knight d6 checkmate. It's a very well known trap. So knight takes e4, queen takes e4, knight d7. bishop c4, knight f6, and here a very beautiful move, knight e5. What time is in Dubai? It is like 1 p.m. Yeah, 1-7. So 95, funny looking move, right? Because now you cannot take the queen on e4, since there is bishop f7 checkmate. Nice checkmate. So that's why black has to play e6 in order to protect the f7 pawn, and now you can go back with your queen. b5, bishop d3, and queen c7 from Gukesh. With this bishop on d3, the best way to develop pieces is, this bishop on c1 is of course bringing it to b2 at some point. So that's why moves like b3, or even you can try first a4, but at the end of the day you're gonna play b3 and then bring this bishop to b2, where of course these two guys are extremely dangerous, and even more in the case that this king goes to g8, aiming for sharp castle. I'm joining Divis, that's right, the Spanish Chess 24 channel later, that's right, and also David Anton, El Niño. It will be the three of us. Divis is just in the next room. Judith Polgar will be in the next room as well. So, knight c6. I think this was not possible. I think this was a very bad idea actually. Let me try to remember why. Maybe a6. And now you go back to e5. I think bishop d6 or even knight d5. This is very dangerous for white. Because now after g3, bishop b7, knight f4 is a threat. If you go short castle, even moves like h5, this is extremely dangerous for white. Now the pawn on c6 has disappeared, and this bishop is extremely dangerous. So sometimes taking pawns is not, the best thing you can do, So of course now black can't take on c6 because of bishop b5, and then white wins, because there is a nasty ping here. But I think bishop b7 or even a6, both of them are enough to get a nice position with the black piece. It's very dynamic. So are you here, Fedor? Are you here in Dubai? So a6. Now, of course, you are threatening the knight, right? Because now there's no bishop f5. So this is why Andres had to go back with the knight. And now different interesting options for black. You can play bishop d6, developing a piece and winning another tempo, hitting this knight. You can play knight d5, which is of course threatening knight f4. So it's actually, very easy to play with the black pieces. He goes for bishop b7, attacking the pawn on g2. Of course you want to take that pawn. And now if you go short castle here, let's say, let me castle program. Why is not allowing me to castle? Now, short castle, and then we said how to proceed. Knight d5 or even bishop d6. I wouldn't like to be in white's shoes at this moment, right? Okay. Not an easy moment for white now. Going short castle is extremely dangerous. Going f3 looks ridiculous, right? You're weakening too much dark squares and also these diagonals. So let's go to Prague's game. So d takes e5, queen takes, rook takes, knight e4, now g4, bishop g6 and bishop e3. What's the threat right now? The threat is to go f3, right? So for example, you play, h6, you can play knight g5, but if you play something like a6, f3 just traps the knight. So that's why black has played f5, and now after f3, probably black wants to go f4. Very nice idea. And now the knight can escape by a g5. So this is why white took on f5, bishop takes f5, now king to h2. You still have that problem with the knight. Now, one question could be why not to play f3 immediately? because black can jump to g3, and then this knight once again runs away by h5. So this is why king h2 is not as, you know, passive as it looks, because now the idea is to go f3, and I don't see a way to bring this knight out, because b6 weakens this diagonal too much, and then the c6 knight is going to be in trouble. And then if you play h6, of course, intend to go knight g5. Now it's time to stop that by playing h4, and of course the idea is to continue with f3. So very tough position already for black right now after h4 from Pragnananda. I would say that white is just winning a piece. I would say that Danny has to resign already after 10 minutes of game, because there's no way to save this piece. Maybe b6, but now after f3, knight c5, you can even take on c5 and then play f4, and now there's no way to protect the knight on c6. If you move it away, then we just grab the fruit on a8. So yeah, rook d8 has been played. Now knight b4, pawn takes e4, and this is just a piece up for Pragnananda, who won pretty easily this game, right? He's got 20 minutes in his clock, even more, you know. He didn't spend all his time, right? And Gukesh also bringing this bishop to d6. Now basically this is forcing white to go either f4 or rook e1, right? These are the only available options, because after knight f3, you know, this looks so bad. For example, short castle followed by e5 looks very strong for black. So I will play f4 right here. But suddenly, you know, another problem arises in this diagonal. For example, let's say bishop c5, now h5, with the idea of going at some points on knight g4, or even h4, h3, right? This bishop is so strong. You can never play bishop e4 to create an opposition against this guy. Let's say b3, h4, now h3 is a big threat, and you have these ideas with knight h5, intend to go knight g3. Such a difficult position for our friends from Spain. And clearly the threat is now to go knight f4 and knight takes e2. So in my opinion, the only interesting move for white here is g3, right? g3, but of course it's extremely scary to open even more this diagonal for this guy here. Well, Pragnananda, a3, knight a6, knight to a5, and after b6, this knight can jump to c6. Danny is not gonna survive. Okay, let's see how Leon Mendonca is doing. Yeah, Leon Mendonca is a pawn up, so it's really looking great for the Indian team. Yeah, queen b5. Now I guess knight c3 is the only move available in this position, and probably black wants to maybe play queen c4. A lot of pressure along the c file. So this looks like 3-0 for India. Let's check Rindilla versus Laura Aguirre. No, very solid position. White is a little bit better because you have more space, but not much. Yeah, you play maybe d5 here with the black pieces, and after e5, knight e4. Still a big fight ahead, right? Okay, let's go back to Gukesh. We're gonna stay here. So knight f3 is being played, and now, you know, the first move that comes to our minds is naturally knight to f4. Basically, there's only 3 squares for the queen, either e3, f1, or d1. Let's say f1, but f1, you know, allows bishop takes f3. So therefore, queen d1 allows knight takes d3, and the structure looks terrible for white. So basically, queen e3 is like probably the most reasonable one. But now after bishop c5, the queen still in big trouble, right? Can go queen e5, but you know, it doesn't look good for our friend Andres Iglesias. And yeah, bishop c5, queen e5. Let's say queen takes e5. Let's analyze this a little bit more. Queen takes e5. White cannot take with the knight because of knight takes e2, so white has to take with the rook. And now knight takes d3, protecting the bishop. C takes d3. Let's say bishop b6. And this is that kind of position that you hate playing with the white pieces. It is true that you are a pawn up and then the queens are off the board, but the structure is just so ugly, you know, that this is just extremely easy to play with the black pieces. You're gonna continue with short castle. You're gonna bring a rook to the c file. You know, white is gonna struggle to develop this queen side, and then a rook is coming to c2 pretty early. The bishops are two dangerous weapons along these two nice diagonals, and this is just a disaster for white. So let's see how they play. Naturally, now with the white pieces, you will allow to play bishop e4 in the next move. So for example, you go short castle, then bishop e4. You have solved a lot, I mean many of your problems. This bishop was one of the best pieces, and now, you know, you're gonna trade it, and that's great news for white. So queen e3 and bishop e4 is the idea. So that's why I think bishop c5 is the best move here. By the way, Pragnananda already won this game, and this is 1-0 for the Indian team. They're still leading the pool, and bishop c5 was played by Gukesh. Such a precise player. So guys, if you have any questions out there in any chat, I'm reading you guys. I'm reading on YouTube, on Twitch, on Tinder, right? On every app. I'm reading you guys. Talking about Tinder, you know, in the past we used to hide that we were chess players, right? When we were trying to conquer our soulmate, you know, we were trying to hide we were chess players, you know. They will think we are nerds. But now being a chess player is cool, man. What happened? After this Queen Gambit series on Netflix, everybody wants to know. Has to be a chess professional. Has to play in a chess tournament, right? Everybody wants to know. Rook takes e5, and now knight takes d3. It's probably the move right here. And then keep the bishop along this diagonal, right? Let's make some more moves. Let's say bishop e6 and now b3. Oh, I just blundered. You know, the engine evaluation just saying the black is completely winning. So what do you play here with the black pieces? Once again, forcing moves. What's your move? Captures, checks, and threats. And just with that, you will solve so many chess puzzles. So many chess puzzles. Yeah, bishop f3, that's right. My man, computer TY16, Krutzik Saktar. That's right, bishop f3 followed by bishop d4. With one capture and one threat, you won the game. You see how easy is chess? No, chess is completely, it's a nightmare. You know, I've been playing my whole life and still such a bad player. So knight takes d3 and now rook c8 makes a lot of sense. Sooner or later, you're gonna retreat this bishop in order to start creating trouble on the c file. So, what else? How about Mendonca? Yeah, Mendonca has a very nice position. Now he's putting pressure against c2. Let's stay in this game. So rook c8. Now, so we cannot play b3. Then that means that we cannot develop this bishop on c1. That means that if we want to play b3, we first have to go rook b1 in order to stop this bishop d4 ideas, right? So let's say rook b1, he went for b4 in a desperate situation. Now after bishop f3, you can take on c5. So that's why I guess you just take this guy on d2, on b2, and after bishop b2, you can play rook c2. This is looking very bad for white, you know. This is looking very, very bad for Mr. Andres Iglesias. So now material is even balanced. So that's why black has a great advantage right here. Remember, for all of you guys who are joining the stream, at 4:30 local time in Dubai, that means 1:30 p.m. in Spain, that means 1:30 p.m. in France, probably very, very early in America. Magnus Carlsen is playing the first game versus Nepomucci of the World Chess Championship here in Dubai as well. You will have commentary in many different languages in Chess 24. You'll have it in English, 2 streams, one with Judith Polgar and Anish Giri, another one with David Howell and Joska Jovanka and Kaja. You have Spanish commentary with David Anton, David Martinez and myself. You have French commentary, German commentary, Turkish commentary and Portuguese commentary. So you have plenty of choices. What time in UK? I guess in UK would be 12:30, right? In UK is 1 hour less than in Spain, so I guess in UK will be 12:30. Okay, so rook b1 is being played. Checking the bishop. Now it is as simple as retreating this guy. You can bring it to d6, you know, just winning another tempo. And then you can also take on f3, right? I like this position. I mean, he went for bishop d5. Well, the thing is, if you take on b4, I just take on c1. So that's why there's no need to retreat the bishop at this point. And you can improve the position by playing bishop d5, actually attacking the pawn on a2. Very interesting move by Gukesh. Your prediction for first match. I would like to have a decided game, you know, in the first game. So we have like more excitement for the rest of the rounds. I would like to have like a fast draw, you know, in 15 moves, some theoretical draw. No, I would like to have a long game, so more chess fans are coming to watch these streams. And yeah, I think a win for Nepo would be great for the match, right? Because a lot of people will think like if Magnus wins the first game with the black pieces, like you know, I think many people will think even that Magnus already won the match, which is not true, of course. But you know, a victory for Nepo in the first match would be extremely exciting for for the rest of the match. Where will you be commentating on the World Championship? I'll be commentating in Spanish. We have a Spanish channel on Chess24. It's called Chess24 en Español. So I'll be there, you know. We'll leave the commentary for the good guys here, for the legend Judith Polgar and Danish Giri. So you guys will enjoy a lot. Trust me. Rook e3 by Andres Iglesias. Just trying, you know, to avoid bishop f3, ruining even more the pawn structure. So what's the plan here for black? Well, you don't need to go crazy. You just need to go short castle, for example. You can bring the other rook to d8. At some point you can penetrate with rook c2, right? But there's no hurry. There's no Harry Potter at this position. Always bet on Magnus. Remain confident, he's saying. So 11 minutes for a good cash. Let's check some other games, okay? Let's go and check the Peruvian team. Zach Oliveros facing San Jose Hopkins from the United States. At this point, Kevin Pan, well, is having a great position versus Steven Rojas, you know. White is a pawn up, and also the structure is better. The king is just safer on g1. For example, c5, let's say, bishop f8. At some point, you're gonna be able to strike with f4. You can also play rook b1, putting pressure, and then continuing with f4. Let's say rook b1, rook b8, and now f4, right? And then you take rook takes f4, and then f7 is gonna fall pretty soon. In your opinion, do you want quick draw in 15-20 moves or long game more than 70-80 moves? No, I would love to have long games in this World Chess Championship, you know, interesting games. Okay, so c5 is being played. Very good move. Now, if I were black, I would probably play rook d8. That's right. Intermediate move, forcing this queen to go back, probably to h3, all the way down. And now, after bishop f8, you can play rook b1. If you want to protect this pawn here, you need to play very passively with rook b8. And now you have so many ideas. f4, rook b3 followed by rook f to b1, you know, make it even harder to protect the pawn on b7. So bishop e7 was played, and yeah, f4 is gonna come. I mean, now after e takes f4, the problem is that you cannot take with the rook, since the a1 rook is also hanging. So that's why I prefer first to bring the rook to another square and then to play f4, so I am able to capture with the rook. Oh, let's go to the first board once again. Rook c3 played by Iglesias. Now let's see how Gukesh is making progress. For example, takes, bishop e4, rook a1, takes on f3. Even this kind of endgame is extremely pleasant for black, you know. Some kind of endgame like this, where you have full control on the light squares. You want to bring the rook to a4, the king to c4, then a5, b4 at some point. And this is just a nightmare for white. You don't have any kind of reaction in this position, right? But I understand that it's tough to give up the bishop pair, and it's also tough to take on c3, since you help a little bit white in terms of pawn structure. So bishop e7, bishop c7 is being played. Black's idea is to play bishop a5, forcing this rook to take on c8. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because you didn't want to take on c3. I mean, that's very tough to do because you know, you are helping white with his pawn structure. So 9 minutes for Andres Iglesias. Julio Iglesias is a very famous singer, right? From Spain. Probably you know him. He's very well known around the world. Bishop a5. And now, well, if you take on c8 and then try to play rook c1, this endgame is also very easy to play with the black pieces. Once again, you can take, and look at this structure, you know, there are more islands than in the Philippines, right? King c6, king d5, then bishop b6, you grab this pawn, and then you also have 2 versus 1. Rook c5, it's being played by Iglesias, and now you can simply take one pawn, yeah. You can simply take the pawn on d2, and then this bishop is going back till d6 to kick this rook away from c5, and then to provoke massive trades on the c file, since black is so material up, so naturally it's favorable to trade some pieces. It's good to trade pieces, guys, when you have an advantage. A good singer, yep. Also Ricky Martin, Living La Vida Loca. Living La Vida Loca. Na 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 na. Si verdad te toca. Ricky Martin, good chess player, yeah. He got the IM title back in 2005. Then he quit chess, and then, you know, he's now winning millions with singing, you know. And as a chess player, he was playing all the time the Scandinavian. The voice of an angel, right? Pepe, I didn't know you had 2900 ELO in singing Spanish, but yeah. You know, Carlos Santana. It's an amazing guitar player, right? Carlos Santana has I really like one song that Carlos Santana has with I think it's with Maná, right? From Mexico. Oh, Carlos Santana is the guy, you know. It's very good. Okay, so bishop f4. Now it's clear that Gukesh wants to play bishop d6. All the bishop endgames are completely winning for black, since, you know, the bishops have the same color. Like if this bishop was in a light square, then white will have very decent chances of making a draw. But it is not like that, you know. It's not every day is Christmas, you know. Not every day you get gifts. So a4 is being played, and now, well, many ways to play it. Even rook takes e5 followed by king c6 looks very good to me, right? Takes, and king c6. The rook can never penetrate on d6 or d7, and then you have already a pass pawn that was created after white played a4. So this is also very, very easy to play with the black pieces. Alright, so he went for that line. He took on c5, then king c6. And now, how are you going to protect this guy on c5? There's no way. There's no easy way to protect that guy. Pawn takes. And now, you know, after bishop a3, this rook is also coming to a8, creating a lot of troubles for Andres Iglesias. Good morning, Juan. What's up, man? How are you doing? And now rook d3 has been played. Well, there are many ways to proceed here. I like the move rook a4, right? Just to be able to push with b4. This is what Gukesh did at this point. Now I would say rook b3 would be interesting to stop b4. But then, you know, there's so many ways to proceed. For example, the bishop on e5. Intend to go rook h4, right? Also bishop d4 followed by bishop takes c5 is an idea. And yeah, I think Andres is gonna resign pretty soon. It's gonna be 2-0 for India, for the Indian team. Not for India, but Indian team. Belamal Nexus. So bishop e5, very good move from Gukesh. Now you can see why isolated pawns are so weak, because they cannot be supported by their colleagues, you know. Now another pawn for free, so bishop takes h2 is coming for sure. White cannot trap the bishop. Have you guys seen first game between the match of Bobby Fischer versus Spassky? Bobby Fischer took a pawn on h2. A terrible mistake. An amateur mistake that, you know, because then Spassky just trapped his bishop after some move like b3. But here, you could have taken that pawn on h2. e5 from Gukesh. I mean, bishop c5. It's also okay. White is intending to go rook d7 and try to collect some pawns. But Gukesh is playing very solid. Not any kind of counterplay he is allowing. Now b4 is coming as well. Bishop c1 and then rook a1. b4 is coming for sure. You can also take the pawn on f4. Did Fischer win the first game? No, actually Fischer lost the first game. And in the second game, he didn't show up. Because he was complaining a lot about the noise. And about the lights and about the cameras of the playing hall. So Fischer didn't show up in the second game. And then the organizers convinced him to come back and play in the third game, but it was already 2-0 for Spassky. A lot of things happens. In that match, you know. It was like the Cold War times. The United States, you know, leading the capitalist bloc versus the Soviet Union, you know, leading the communists. And so it was not only a battle of chess. It was all about a battle of countries, you know, politics and all this stuff, you know. So it was quite interesting, that match. Alright, so Gukesh won the game, and this is already 3-0 for Belamal Nexus. And Gujarat State Chess Association is actually 4-0 already versus Aligned Culture Chess Club. And we're gonna go to the match between the Peruvian and the American, Zach Oliveros versus San Jose. Let's go over there. Steven. Where are you, Stephen? Here. There we go. What is this king doing? Steven on e6. This looks so bad, man. I studied Spanish in the school for 6 years, but I needed the Google Translator for the first part of my sentence. You know, it happens the same to me with my German. You know, I lived in Germany for 3 years, and my German is so poor, man. Such a pity that I didn't manage to learn. Everybody was speaking English, you know, so I was very lazy with my German, and I was working at the university where the atmosphere was very international. In my team, we were like one Spanish, like one Czech, one guy from Nigeria, one American, one from Iran, like, so we were speaking English all the time. Queen f4 from Kevin Pan. This looks a disaster for black, you know. 2 pawns up for white, and also a much better king. E5 is an idea all the time to open some files. And so yeah, E5 is coming. You can never take on C2 because of rook F6. This has to be checkmate, right? Queen D6, Queen F6, King G8, Queen F7, King H8, bishop D4 mate. So you cannot, you know, deviate the queen from the F6 square, and that means you basically can do nothing because E5 is coming as well. Also, Queen G4 ideas are very dangerous, you know. So I think Steven has to resign pretty soon. I think he needs a miracle in order to save this game. Greetings from Italy. Hey, what's up? Salve a tutti. Spero che tutto va bene. I was studying in Italy, my Erasmus, one semester in L'Aquila, city which is near to Rome. There was actually a big earthquake which killed a lot of people over there. So I arrived 2 years after the earthquake. Like, they were giving grants, a lot of scholarships for a lot of people, you know, to attract more people to the city. I was having a lot of fun there. It was probably my best year, the best year of my life, 2011. I was doing my masters over there in L'Aquila. And so Steven still thinking, and it's just impossible to make a move here with the black pieces. I mean, the best move is just resigning, right? The best move here is just resigning. Let's see what's going on. So the king is already on d8. King d7, queen g4, king d8, queen f4 back, rook c8. Steven fighting. Rook c8. He wants to bring the rook to c7 and d7. Make some sort of fortress. Queen f2. Now bishop d4 is the idea from Kevin. Very smart. Bishop d4 unstoppable. In order to take on f6 later, you can also take on h6. Maybe this pawn is even more important. Now we are protecting the c5 pawn with the rook and the queen, so we can take this guy and then push it. Push it, baby. I heard that Eric Rosen is the official photographer for the championship. I would love for the St. Louis Chess Club to commentate with Maurice Ashley and Yasser 01. I think that you will have a lot of choices for English commentary. You will have so many choices that it won't be a problem for you guys. Many people will be, you know, covering this match, so don't worry about that. So rook f8, and now maybe you can just grab this guy here at h6. You can play also bishop d4, and then e5 looks very strong, right? e5 looks super strong. You're capturing the pawn on f6. So bishop d4 is being played, queen b4 from Steven, and now, as I told you, probably e5 just finishes the game. right? E5 looks good. Kevin now thinking. It's always good, you know, to stop for a while, make sure about the move that you want to play. It doesn't mean because you have a great advantage, it doesn't mean that you are winning the game. So it's actually where a lot of people make mistakes, you know. They start blitzing out and you make a lot of mistakes. C3, reinforcing everything, keeping everything protected. Now getting ready to keep pushing, you know. E5, even C4. No chance for black, yeah. Bishop F6. He just decided to take everything on F6. Now after Rook F6, taking on C5 doesn't help you because of D4, right? You are not gonna get this queen away. Queen takes D3. And now there are many ways to finish this game. For example, Rook F8 looks good. If black takes King C7, Rook F7 just wins a lot of material. Queen D7 is forced. Well, you have King B8, but even this endgame should be completely winning. Yeah, these two passers. There's so many ways to finish the game that I'm completely sure that Kevin Pan is not gonna miss this chance. Rook F8, very strong move. From Kevin. Takes. Now you gotta go to C7. Of course, if you go to D7, then Rook F7 and Queen E7 checkmate. So you gotta go to C7, and then Rook F7 has been played. Steven's gonna play King B8, and now Queen D6 is more than enough to finish the game, right? Queen D6 takes. Now E5, E6, E7 or D7. These 2 pawns are just unstoppable. So let me count the score. So Sac Oliveros 1, San Jose 0. Diego Flores won his game in board number 2. So now San Jose is gonna balance this, this match. Rook E8, but now you can play Rook E7, for example. If Rook takes, pawn takes, the king doesn't arrive on time to stop that pawn. So D7 is being played, also very natural. Now you cannot take for obvious reasons. The pawn is arriving to D8. So basically, E5, E6, you can pre-move that. Now E6, you can pre-move E7, and this is game over. You can try Rook B8 here, but now, you don't play E7, of course, but you can play the beautiful D8. Boom! King takes, Rook takes, Rook F8, Rook takes, now E7. There's no way to stop this guy here. Rook G8, and now, for example, Rook E7, in order to go Rook E8, should be winning. E7 as well, since after King takes D7, then Rook F8 wins the game. Alright, so this is going to be 1-1. And Diego Flores won. Here, Henry Vasquez. He has a very good position. Even though he's an exchange down, he's got 1 pawn and the bishop pair for the rook. And these pawns are very weak. E4. This was a very strange move. Actually, because now you allow Rook takes E4. And Rook E3 is coming, so still a big fight ahead here. If White decides to take, he didn't. He went for Rook G1, and now I think Black's plan is to go Rook C8 and Rook C4, Rook A4, or even taking this guy on C3. Rook C8 is being played, and now, yeah, there are too many ideas. Just taking the pawn on C3, or you can activate the rook by a C4. It makes a lot of sense in order to go rook a4, right? Bishop e7. Now the pawn on a3 is just hanging. Also, bishop c5 check is a threat, followed by e3. This looks very annoying for white. This looks super annoying for white. Well, so a4, bishop c5, e3, rook h4 check, king g8 only move for Henry. And Henry is gonna win this game. Now black is winning another piece. The rook is coming to c3, the pawn is coming to d2. So this is going to be 2-1 for Peru. And now Fiorella, she has a great position as well. So this could mean the victory for Zach Oliveros. They want to qualify for the finals. They need this victory. And g5, very good move. Now the g6 pawn is under attack. So basically there's no room for this rook, right? All the squares are completely controlled by white's pieces. So that means white is winning an exchange after this g5 push. And therefore the game, bishop takes g6, boom! Now you're gonna get two exchanges. Give me that, baby. Give me that. Knight takes f7. And then queen f4. Trading pieces. Rook f1. And now it's time to resign. Okay. So 5-0 for Gujarat State versus Align. Vela Malnexus beat Torre la Vega. And now Zach Oliveros is very close to beat the guys from the States. Queen e5. And now there's no point of actually continuing playing this position with the black piece is so hopeless. For example, rook f6. Here you can play whatever you want. King g2, king f2, king h2, king h4. Everything is advantage for white. It's too much material up. Okay guys, so after this game I will have to say bye-bye. And you know, this evening I'll change to Spanish. And we are so much looking forward for the World Chess Championship. We've been 3 years without that. And hopefully we'll have this one this year and another one next year around the same dates. Candidates tournament happening once again, I believe around March, April 2022, where Virusa, Fabiano Caruana, among others, are playing, fighting for a spot to challenge the World Championship, Magnus Carlsen or Nepo. G6, knight d6, stopping queen f7. And now, for example, queen h6 is good enough for the win. 20 seconds for Fiorella. Rook e1. Why not? Bring the last heavy piece. We can say that Zach Oliveros already won the match against Mission San Jose Hopkins Jr. since it is 3 versus 1. Next World Championship is going to be next World Champion, I guess you want to say, is going to be Maurice Ashley. That's going to be tough, you know. Bishop d7. Now let's say queen h6. Good enough. Queen f6 also good enough. Trading pieces. Always a good idea. And yeah, I think the game is finished, right? I don't see anybody playing in the video footage. Okay, they're still playing, yeah. e5, bishop e8, rook h5 takes, rook g5. Now, black is about to resign, and I think we're gonna wrap it all here. I think it's been, well, an interesting day with some good games, and therefore I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna have to thank all of you guys for being there, for being so supportive, and you know, just for talking to me. You know, this is very nice, guys. So have a good evening, everyone, and well, we'll see you in the World Chess Championship. I'll be doing it, sorry, in Spanish, and you'll have great commentary here in the Chess24 English channel with Judith Polgar, Anish Giri, and our tour guys David Howell and company. So it's been a pleasure. I send you big hugs from Dubai. Take care and have a nice day, guys.